This is a reflective conversation between a father and a son. Together they explore why life and relationships can feel difficult, and why we humans sometimes behave in surprisingly irrational ways. At times, we even act as if a situation or another person is to blame for what we feel, almost as if a table were responsible for hurting us when we bump into it. Part 1A invites understanding and clearer seeing. In Part 1B, the focus shifts to practice, with simple, concrete exercises to bring these insights into daily life. Let's begin, and join them in their conversation.
I caught myself wishing for one of our conversations again. Would now be a good moment?
Of course. You sound a little serious. Has something happened?
No, nothing dramatic. I've just been thinking about how complicated life and relationships can feel, especially the intimate relationships. And I'd like to ask you a few things about that, if you're open to it. Why do life and human relationships so often feel complicated and difficult, even when I'm trying to do everything right?
Because life is not meant to be easy, it is meant to shape and deepen you. If you expect life to be easy, setbacks will feel like failure. But it is precisely through adversity that you can gain self-understanding, meaning, and depth. Without it, you would never have an opportunity to discover who you truly are.
You're probably right, but it's hard to understand. It feels strange that one would need adversity in order to grow and refine oneself.
I understand. It is hard to accept. But without adversity and suffering, you stay within your comfort zone and never need to explore anything deeper within yourself. People who have not faced difficulty often remain on the surface, they don't truly know themselves, and therefore struggle to understand others emotionally. What truly matters is not self-confidence, but self-knowledge.
That's interesting. I'd like to come back to that later.
We will. And there is something else that makes life and relationships more difficult. We behave quite strangely as human beings. We hurt ourselves when someone says or does something we don't want, not because of what they did, but because of how we interpret it. Our emotions are largely the body's response to the thoughts we think. So, try to remember, what you experience and feel always originates within you.
It feels as if I've been led to believe that the person I'm with causes what I feel.
I hear your frustration. Think of the example of the table and the child. Some parenting books once suggested that when a child bumps into a table, the parent should scold the table together with the child. Bad table. How could you hurt the child? Do you see how strange our reasoning can be?
Yes, I see it. It's almost unbelievable.
So we agree, the table did nothing. It was simply there. Just like the person you believe caused your pain. They simply did what they did. Nothing more. For something to become negative, you have to choose to define it as negative. We have been programmed to label certain things as negative, so that we then have a reason to feel something we don't want to feel, and afterward blame another person or life itself for what we feel. We believe this is how a human being is supposed to function.
Unbelievable. Why don't we get help already in school to understand how irrational we actually function?
That's a very good question. Probably because those who decide what we are supposed to learn believe that this is how we should function.
I feel deceived. How can we humans behave so irrationally, when we can fly to the moon and perform highly complex surgeries?
That's how it is, almost as if we don't even want to understand how irrational we are. The fact is that there is no direct link between what someone does or what happens in your life and how you feel, unless you choose to create that link yourself. Unless you choose to give another person or the life that kind of power over you. When we feel hurt by others or life itself, we react as if it were the table's fault. We believe that others, a neighbor, a partner, a friend, cause our feelings. I hope this image helps you remember that next time.
The example with the table shows, in a very concrete way, how irrationally we function.
Indeed. No one outside of you can hurt you emotionally unless you think thoughts that hurt you. So tell me, are you guided from the outside, or from within? Do you allow others to decide how you feel, or do you choose for yourself?
I've never really thought about it. I've just assumed that feelings happen to us, that they are caused by what others say or do. You mentioned suffering earlier. Why does pain and suffering have to be part of our development? I wish I could learn without it.
Psychological pain can be seen as a light, showing you where you can grow and become more loving toward yourself.
A light that helps me see something important within myself, something I may have neglected. That thought feels comforting. And the possibility that my pain or suffering could bring me closer to something within me that helps me become more loving and compassionate toward myself feels so gentle, it almost brings me to tears.
It may be a sign that you've been demanding and hard on yourself.
When you say that, it really touches me. I think you're probably right.
It's not uncommon to become hard on yourself if, during childhood, you were exposed to situations you weren't emotionally ready for.
Step by step, I'm starting to understand myself a little better. And these conversations mean so much to me, so I hope we can continue.
Of course. We were talking about pain and suffering. People tend to function the way they always have, like an old vinyl record stuck on repeat, or a robot that has gotten stuck. And people often even come to believe that this is who they are.
Really interesting.
And when you suggest that they try doing something in a new way, they may say, "But then I wouldn't be myself anymore." That idea is just as strange as if a child were to say they wouldn't be themselves anymore if they had to, for example, clean their room. We can actually be so odd that we believe our old habits and ways of relating to others and to those we love are somehow programmed into us, something fixed, difficult to change, or essential to who we truly are, when in reality they are nothing more than learned patterns and familiar ways of functioning.
It is so sad. It's as if people have been assigned certain roles in a play, and when the play is over, they don't even realize that they are free to be who they want to be, almost as if they don't even want to be free.
I do understand your reaction, but I do understand them too. Their familiar role gives them a sense of security, even though they are deceiving themselves. It's frightening for them to realize that they can choose how to be, because that also means taking responsibility. And most of us don't want to take that responsibility. It's much easier to say, "This is just how I am, and there's nothing I can do about it."
It sounds as if they're afraid of their own freedom. But what could help them disrupt their ingrained routines and old ways of being?
Good question. What truly disrupts those ingrained patterns is life's challenges, which is why we can even learn to be grateful for them. Emotional pain does not come to punish you. It comes to wake you, to help you understand yourself and your way of being, and to guide you toward what you truly are and need.
When something hurts, I immediately want to escape, fix it, or blame someone. Is that wrong?
No. It's human. Those reactions are ancient, designed for survival. But growth begins when you pause instead of avoiding or blaming. When you stay present instead of reacting automatically.
It feels like I would need some kind of emergency brake to be able to stop.
Stopping can feel difficult and frightening at first when your thoughts provokes you. But when you dare to pause, what you experience slowly turns into understanding. What you allow and accept begins to soften and open.
You often say meet life. What does that really mean?
It means stopping avoidance and control. Meeting life is turning inward and being with what you feel, even when it's difficult. It requires a willingness to stay with yourself, your feelings, your vulnerability, your shortcomings, your thoughts, your inner fears. That willingness changes everything.
To stay with myself, with what I feel and think. That sounds powerful, but a little scary.
Discomfort arises when you resist what you truly feel. Like trying to stop a river with your hands instead of letting it flow. When you allow what is, you discover that nothing is truly threatening you unless there is real physical danger.
So you mean I actually have responsibility for my thoughts?
Yes. And that's important. Suffering does not mean you have failed or that your life is bad. It simply means your thoughts have taken over. So tell me, do you guide your thoughts, or do they guide you?
Oops, I hadn't thought of that. If I'm honest, I have to admit that I'm often guided from the outside, reacting emotionally, taking things personally, and quickly becoming defensive, instead of realizing that nothing is really threatening me when someone says or does something I don't want or like. So the answer to your question is that my thoughts and feelings are often guiding me, rather than the other way around. But it sounds liberating to realize that I can guide my own thoughts, and by actively choosing them, choose what I feel. So, pausing and staying with something painful, that isn't the same as giving up, is it?
No. Acceptance is honesty and strength, not weakness. It is meeting reality without adding demands like this shouldn't be happening. Real strength grows from honesty, acceptance, and vulnerability.
I sometimes notice that I turn myself into a victim instead of taking responsibility for my reactions.
That's where awareness begins. Victimhood closes the heart, curiosity and honesty open it. When you take responsibility, you regain freedom and choice.
So you really mean that my well-being depends more on how I respond than on what happens?
Exactly. How you meet life creates either freedom or suffering.
I also forget that other people carry their own burdens, especially when I'm frustrated.
That's understandable. Other people's burdens and suffering are rarely visible. Even if everything appears fine on the surface, we all carry our own challenges and burdens. Try to pause and notice when your mind judges or assumes. In that pause, compassion is born for others and for yourself. However, to pause at all, you need self-discipline. Self-discipline is the commitment to stay present long enough to choose what is true, meaningful, and thoughtful, instead of what merely brings immediate relief.
Sometimes I remember all this, and sometimes I don't. Does that mean I'm failing?
No. It means you are practicing. Growth is a rhythm of remembering and forgetting. Each return deepens awareness.
You speak of self-discipline as something loving. How can that be?
Because true self-discipline is not control, it is care. It is choosing what supports your deeper well-being. You can practice it gently in everyday life by waiting a little before acting. That small pause changes everything.
But why do impulses and emotions feel so overwhelming?
Because they are not just thoughts, they are chemistry and old patterns. But their intensity fades when you stop obeying them automatically.
So waiting isn't suppression?
No. Waiting allows. Suppression tightens. Allowance creates space, choice, and freedom.
When I wait, I feel both stronger and deprived.
Deprived is habit speaking. Real strength is staying with yourself. We can return to this later. May I ask one more question before we finish? What would you think if you acted in the following way? You notice that your car isn't working the way it should, it has something that causes you harm or discomfort, and you decide to do something about it. You decide that the problem needs to be fixed, but instead of taking your own car to the mechanic, you take your neighbor's car to the workshop. And you believe that the problem in your own car, the one that caused you harm, will be repaired or corrected by taking your neighbor's car to the mechanic. What would you think of that?
I think I know what you're thinking of. You're thinking of the example with the table, when the child bumped their leg against the edge of the table, and the parent blamed the table, calling it a bad table for causing harm. The example of taking my neighbor's car to be repaired instead of my own describes how I function when I blame my friend, my partner, my neighbor, or anyone else, for the negative feelings I have created within myself. Thank you for helping me remember this. It feels good and liberating to realize that I am not dependent on anyone else when it comes to choosing how I feel. What a sense of freedom and relief it brings to realize that no one outside of me has power over what I feel, as long as I take responsibility for my thoughts and my attitude.
Thank you for being here with us today. It means a great deal that you chose to spend this time listening, reflecting, and gently exploring these deeper layers of human experience. What we've talked about may sound simple on the surface. Noticing our feelings, understanding our patterns, offering ourselves compassion. But living these truths takes patience. These are not ideas we master overnight. They are practices that grow slowly, through kindness, repetition, and a willingness to stay present with ourselves. As you continue your own journey, remember, nothing inside you needs to be rushed. Understanding and healing unfold in their own time. What matters most is your openness, your curiosity, and the gentle way you return to yourself again and again. And I'd like to invite you to join us for episode 1B, where the conversation between father and son continues. At the end of that episode, you'll also receive a set of practical exercises, simple but powerful tools designed to help you bring these insights into your everyday life. These practices can make the path clearer, the steps lighter, and your relationships richer and more meaningful. They offer a way not just to understand these ideas, but to live them. Thank you once again for listening. Whenever you're ready, let's continue this journey together in the next episode. And before you go, a small reminder. If these conversations spoke to something in you, it would mean a lot if you subscribed. It helps this work reach others who might need it too, and you'll be gently notified when the next episode arrives.